guys. This is Mike of Craft Beer Storm, also owner, brewer, founder at Beara Brewing Company in glorious Portsmouth, New Hampshire, where it is cold and we're supposed to have some snow coming in. Big storm, but that's okay. We're in the Northeast. I can't complain. Actually, a couple weeks ago, it was like 3 degrees here, and I got on a plane. I went down to Miami with the 10X conference. It was 3 here, and it was 73 there. It was awesome. But that's okay. Anyway, we have an episode. We have Jenny the Greek, who is a Beer Talk Radio host. And I met Jenny on LinkedIn, and she's awesome. She has a lot of information. She's a chef who's worked with a lot of great celebrity chefs. And really, she knows what she's talking about, and she's really into beer. So I wanted to get her on, and I did. So here we go. Hey guys, this is Mike. We're here with Jenny the Greek. She is the host of Beer Talk Radio. She's out on the West Coast, and she's also a chef, which is very interesting. And how you doing, Jenny?
I am excited to be on the Beara Brewing show. Awesome.
Yeah, Craft Beer Storm, Beara Brewing Company. Yeah, so we're East Coast meets West Coast. It's cool.
I'm ready.
So listen, no, I'm glad that you came on the show. We connected, I believe it was Instagram or LinkedIn. I forget. I think it was LinkedIn. But it was very interesting, like your background and your website, and I heard your podcast, which was great. And I just wanted to maybe kick it off here, maybe get into your story, like how'd you started, where are you now? How'd you get into craft beer? You're a chef as well. It seems very interesting to me. So maybe you can elaborate on that.
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked. So first and foremost, I need to just announce to the world that Beer Talk Radio is not my idea. It is my father's idea. My dad planted the seed about maybe 4 years ago. Back in 2015, I was visiting him with my best friend, and we were sitting on the couch in the lounge just talking, and he was thinking maybe because he and I both used to drink a lot of craft beer together, that just based on my personality and based on the fact that I'm such a great chef, sorry to pat myself on the back, but, it is true. He had this idea, and he thought, we threw some names around, and for a long time it just really wasn't possible because of the conditions in my life and how much I was working. And it was one of those things that's like a bucket list item that you never get to, but you have to force yourself to get to it. Mm-hmm. So fast forward a couple years, I hit Vegas, and I've got a whole lot of time on my hands because I don't really know anyone. I'm not a huge gambler. I'm not a huge drinker, even though I do drink beer, obviously. I'm not a shots girl or anything like that. Uh-huh. And so I had a lot of time to myself, and I found a meetup that was called the Las Vegas Podcasters Meetup. And I started going to their workshops every single month, and I got to know the two two moderators of the podcast group very well, and now they are actually married. It is Chris and Lacey Cerrone of Swell Story Media, so shout out to them for all the help that they gave me. And through this podcasters workshop, I got a lot of knowledge about the technical aspects of what you need to get in order to start a podcast, and how you need to brand yourself, and how you need to have a really clear core message with your brand and with your podcast. So it was exciting to me, and a year later, I finally recorded my first episode, which I believe was last July, and I've been pretty committed to it ever since. So I owe a lot of it to Dad. Another reason, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Michael, but have you ever worked a job in your life, and then you go away from that job, and then years later you're doing something, and then you remember what that other job taught you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so I can give you an example if you want. I mean, my father had
tell me. Yeah, let's share it.
He had he had a machine shop, and he was very precise, and he manufactured, very precise stuff out of aluminum, stainless steel. And I remember being there and helping him, and it was just you had to be particular and Just everything had to be lined up. You couldn't screw around, just throw stuff together. It's very precise work. And now I'm brewing, right? I went away from that. His business kind of went away. He had a large customer that, started to pull work away. And then I kind of went back to school, became a CPA accountant. And I did that for a while, auditor. I'm still doing that now to try to bring some money in, but I find myself gravitating back towards the manufacturing, and that's beer. I have a brewery.
Awesome.
And you know what?
So
you have to be precise, and you have to be, there's temperatures that you have to hit. There's cleanliness that you have to have. You have to have sanitation. There's exact amounts of grain and hops. It's all a science. And it was kind of like the same thing. And I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah. Like I resonate with what you just said.
Right. So here was my professional deja vu moment. I had forgotten all these years later that I used to be a graphic designer, and that's what most people don't know about me. I actually got my degree in graphic design. I worked as a freelance graphic design artist, and I various marketing companies or on marketing departments at various companies for 7 years before I started cooking. I didn't start cooking till I was 29. Okay, so that's pretty late in life to be starting such a brutal blue-collar career. Most people don't do that. You know?
I wouldn't know. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. Well, you seem like a very good chef. I was listening to your podcast, some of the way you were describing things, even like the sounds of you cutting things up. I was like getting hungry. I'm like, this is awesome. She's awesome. She is a chef because she knows what she's doing. Yeah.
I wanted to create a full sensory experience about that particular episode, and there definitely will be more beer pairing episodes to come. But anyway, so I had forgotten that I had worked at this theater company, and it was called The Play's the Thing, LA Theater Works. Now, what they did is they made plays, and they're still on the radio, and they're still selling on Audible and other digital download platforms, but they did live radio theater. And it was almost like I've been a chef for so long that I had forgotten that I used to work at this company. And even though when I was there, I was a graphic designer, I was doing packaging and whatever online graphics that they needed and whatever print graphics that they needed for the events, the programs, etc. And it all kind of came rushing back to me. I remember going to the plays and seeing all the actors and seeing what's a lot of people refer to as a Foley artist, but it's actually a sound designer is the proper name for that person who makes those click-clack sounds and all of that. Mm-hmm. So I remembered, like, basically in my spirit that this is who I used to be, and now it's all coming back to me. But now I'm the star of the show, and I'm not behind the scenes doing graphics, even though I do my own graphics. And then one other component of how Beer Talk Radio was born, and this is kind of a silly one, but I think it's something that needs to be expressed. At the same time that I was going to these podcaster workshops, I was also going to a lot of public speaking workshops and Toastmasters and public speaking training workshops and things of that nature. And little beknownst to me, I didn't realize that the type of people that are attracted to this type of community are generally going to be real estate people, marketing people, motivational speakers, business coaches, life coaches, and other sales type people. High performance sales people is what they call themselves. So it's a lot of fun. I'm going to these workshops. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning how to speak better. I'm learning about vocal variety. I'm learning about pause breaks, how to add humor to your speech, how to have a complete speech, how to bring things full circle, how to use descriptive words, body language, etiquette, all of these great things about public speaking. So I get really into it, and I'm doing great, and I'm knocking people out of the park. People are floored by the speeches that I'm giving. I'm doing speeches from everything from domestic violence to the Parkland shooting to James Bond to Madonna. Like, I'm making speeches about any thought that's coming into my head, right? So I start hanging out with these people outside of the workshops because I don't have any friends. I'm in Vegas by myself. And like I said, I don't gamble, so there's nothing for me to do besides go to work.
Right.
And I get to know these people, and over time I'm starting to see, okay, all of these six-figure marketing experts are not actually making six figures. And all of the business coaches are not actually running businesses. And then, like, all of the motivational speakers are total sociopaths. So I'm sitting back.
That's great.
I'm sitting back, and I'm thinking to myself, A, oh, my God, I am surrounded by a bunch of scam artists. And B, how do I get in on the action? Because here, I actually am an expert at something. I'm an expert at food. I'm an expert at customer service and providing a great guest experience. And I'm great at training and leadership.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, you know what? I should write a book. I should have a podcast. I should do everything that these people are doing to get these $2,000 checks for these keynote speeches they're apparently giving at these conferences. And it's like, well, I think I actually have a voice and I have something meaningful and real to add to the table and to help other people. And I think that when you combine all of those crazy elements of my life, that is how Beer Talk Radio was born. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I started the podcast too, because I'm actually in it. You know, I'm a brewer. I have a brewery. I'm not just some guy who likes beer, and like I know what's going on. And there's a lot of people out there that just criticize brewers, and they post stuff like about their beer is crap, and they post pictures of, you know, like garbage pictures. These people don't know what the hell they're talking about, you know. So I'm kind of defending brewers, and I'm also seeing a lot of, you know, like there's distributors out there that are not really, we'll get into some of those stories in the craft brew news, but, you know, they're not really playing fair. And there's the big guys that are doing things through shell entities now that are just trying to squash the small guys. And it's horrible. So I guess, you know, you put yourself out because you know what you're doing, right? I mean, you have knowledge and you have experience in it. And so I think you know, what you're doing is awesome. You know, and I like to try to replicate that as well, like through the beer that I'm talking about in the podcast. You know.
Well, I think you're doing a great podcast yourself. I mean, I love the fact that you're almost like 3 different shows in one show, and I love how your podcast is very all encompassing. You have your interpersonal interviews, and then you have your couple of segments that you just do by yourself. I think that the news. Not everyone would want to listen to news. I might just want to listen to beer styles. So I can go, I mean, I love how you have it separate so that you have something for everyone, and people who are short on time, if they can't listen to the long guest interviews, they can listen to the short 10-minute beer style descriptions, which are a lot of fun. So I commend you. I pat you on the back for your podcast. I think we're doing something from the same perspective with the same heart in a different way.
Right.
That's all.
Well, yeah. Well, the interesting thing about you is I wanted to get connected with people who know about food, and obviously you're a chef, so I think that the food, there's a lot of wine and food pairing, but beer is fantastic. And I'm trying to, like, I do the beer shows, the craft, the beer styles, just to tell people that, look, there's just not, you know, IPAs and lagers. I mean, there's like 102 categories in the GABF listing, and subcategories on those, you know, as well. So there's loads of quality beer that's being produced out there that can be paired with food. So that's kind of what interests me about you. And your podcasts are very professional, like you said. Yeah, you're very well spoken and professional, and that's cool. A lot of these podcasts, you said you touched upon it as well, like. A lot of these guys, like, in their basement drinking beer and just criticizing beer. It's like they don't know what the hell they're talking about, really, you know. And it's just they're wasting my time. They're really, and then they talk about their dogs, and you know, they talk about their dogs and what they did in the weekend. Like, I don't care. I don't care.
Neither do I.
This is my time. My time. You have my time here. Talk about something relevant that will help me. And that's the way
There you
things are
go.
trending, and that's the way media is trending. People are getting information on demand. And I scored I asked for the craft brewers conference. I'm media. I got a media pass. I have like an all access media pass. They gave me one because I have a podcast. I mean, that's awesome. I'm like this dude in New Hampshire with a brewery, and they gave me a media pass. I think that's cool.
Well, you know what? You can get those media passes. I mean, I'm not far enough into it to where I've built a big enough audience, but you know what? Sometimes the threshold is not all that high. So the more that you put yourself out there and get on every beer festival, every beer event, every grand opening, get out there, follow these people on Instagram, follow them on Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever, get to know their employees. And you'll always have an in. You'll always have
That's
an in.
awesome.
And with the amount of people that you interview, oh, yeah. And what's funny, remember I had mentioned the Las Vegas Podcasters group. That was one of the subjects that came up in one of the classes one night, is getting media pass. And podcast was not heard of like 10 years ago, but now it's like a legit, credible news source.
Absolutely.
And source for brand building and content creation.
Yeah. I don't listen to the news anymore. I don't watch the news. It's all garbage.
Oh, I can't.
When our president says fake news, he's right. I'm sorry. People disagree. But it's all a bunch of garbage. It's like stories, and I don't know. Well, they create these stories to sell, commercial time. That's why they do this. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's all garbage. So I like truth, and I listen to podcasts and quality podcasts. Your podcast is great. You have relevant stuff, which is good. And I listen to some other podcasts as well. But I'm glad that you're on with us. So I'm sorry. Continue on your journey, your story.
Oh well, I mean that's really where it kind of ends, or should I say begins. So yeah, the first podcast that I put out was with Drake's, the head brewmaster of Drake's here in San Leandro, and San Leandro is right outside of Oakland, and for those of you who don't know, Oakland is about 10 minutes over a bridge from San Francisco. So this entire area where I live is very tight-knit together. San Leandro is right outside of Oakland. It's right by the Oakland airport. A lot of really cool breweries coming up in San Leandro. There's a great budding infant craft brewing scene in Las Vegas. So like I said, I started the podcast when I was out there. I'm temporarily back in the Bay Area working for a season or two, and then I'm going to go back to Vegas for a little while and probably just kind of live in both places because I'm doing pretty well out here, but we'll get to that later. Anyhow, my goal with the podcast was to create a podcast for professionals by professionals. Like you said, I didn't want to just sit around and do reviews. There are so many podcasts that are already doing that. I don't need to replicate anyone else's show format. And generally speaking, like you said, these are not professional industry people, nor are they professionally trained public speakers, as I am both. So I think that that's something that is different that I bring to the table. I always want to have information about great customer service, being profitable, marketing strategies, thinking outside of the box, being creative with food, being creative with beer. How do you expand? How do you expand craft beer culture without sounding like a snob? These are the topics that I try to hit on, and I try to make sure that I have something for everybody. So the episode that you listened to, tell us. Well, you've never actually given me feedback, so you listened to the Oscar Blues and Oysters episode?
Yes.
Tell us what you think.
No, I was getting hungry, like I said. I mean, you were chopping up things, and I couldn't see anything. But and the way you explained it, I mean, you're a chef, right? You're a chef. I mean, I would say that's it. So I think it was very interesting.
What did you think about my combinations with incorporating the beer into the oysters?
No, I think that's fantastic. I mean, I'm kind of, I mean, that intrigues me, and I haven't done a lot of that, and I'd like to get more into that. And I think it's great that you that you found a way to pair beer with food. which I think is great. I mean, we have a lot of the cicerones, right? I've interviewed one, like master cicerones, and they, part of their training is like, what kind of beer goes with food, with a certain type of food, which is very interesting to me, in terms of, maybe like a spicy dish would have an IPA, but I think what you did with the oysters, and I'm not like a fish person, but I was really, like I said, I got to try this stuff because this sounds really good.
Well, you're in New England. You should be eating. I would think you'd be eating fish and oysters all the time.
No, I like clams.
Is that a stereotype?
I like the clam thing. Yeah, the lobster and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know. I was traumatized, I guess, when I was a kid because my parents are Italian, and they used to do that octopus stuff and. Oh man!
Yeah, you were too young for that.
Oh, they're like, yeah, eat it. It's good. I'm like, no, it's not good. So I was kind of traumatized, but yeah,
I don't think anyone should be made to eat octopus before the age of like 28.
I think so. Yeah, that's probably what happened to me.
You got to be ready for it.
No, I can't do this. So, but I think the oyster thing. I mean, the way you did it, and the I think it was fantastic. So. Hopefully you'll cook it one day at one of your conferences where you're at, and I could try some. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm sure. But yeah. No, go ahead.
Oh well, I mean, cool. I mean, I'm glad you brought that one up. And like I said, like everything that I'm trying to do with my podcast is for everyone who works in and around and eats and sleeps hospitality, food and beverage, craft beer, nightlife, sports bars. That is who this podcast is for. So I've got a couple of beer pairing episodes for chefs. For servers and bartenders, I have a great episode teaching how to introduce segue beers so you can turn your Bud Light customers into craft beer customers.
Yeah.
I have an episode for head brewers and aspiring brewers. Like I said, it was the first one I did, a day in the life of a head brewmaster. If you work in sales, I have some great episodes for that. I have one where I'm interviewing a regional sales representative for Hangar 24 craft beer out of Arizona and California. Mm-hmm. For entrepreneurs, I have a great episode called Crowdfunding Craft Beer, where I talk to a craft beer enthusiast who also has a YouTube channel. He's great. His name's Ron Costa. And we talk about his background in crowdfunding finance. So he actually is a money guy. Yeah. And he's trying to bring the community together and see how we can co-op and help one another. Right. For salespeople, I have a marketing expert who happens to love IPAs, and I hate IPAs. So he did most of the tasting and was able to give an incredibly detailed review. And he was able to talk about search engine optimization, which is something that I think a lot of small businesses need to be thinking about if they're not already. So like I said, or influencers, people who are serving craft beer, making craft beer, dealing with food, working in gastropubs, this is a podcast for you.
Yeah, no, you're kind of 360, right?
I'm trying to be.
you are touching upon all the different areas, and I'm trying to do that as well. Actually, I'll just have anybody, it doesn't matter as long as they're associated with craft beer, and it could be a distributor, it could be a cicerone, it could be a brewer, it could be packaging, whatever, restaurateurs. Get them on and see what their take on craft beer is, and what they feel the current scene is, and what people are trending towards. So that's good. But now I wanted to talk to you about something. You don't like IPAs, huh?
No,
Oh
I can't drink it. I can't drink it.
Oh my God! All right, that's
I've
okay.
tried for many years. I was in denial. I tried,
really?
and then finally, I got sick enough times from drinking them that I was like, I have such a high alcohol tolerance. Like, I used to drink a lot of whiskey, and now I've always drank a lot of beer. I have an iron stomach. I can eat anything, but
Wow.
IPAs, they just make me yak. I just can't do it.
It must be
my face itch.
It's got to be an allergic thing or something, yeah, because it's a flower actually, right? So you must be allergic to it, or it grows on a vine. I mean, it's a bud.
I mean, I would have to take like an antihistamine, or I could try it. I could try that. A little Claritin.
That's what it
IPA
is, yeah.
combo.
So you're more into the darker beers, I guess, or strong ales.
I will go dark and light. So I always say that I'm a Pilsner girl, but love any kind of orange wheat, Belgian wheat, or Kolsch. I'm starting to experiment with the Brut IPA. That's about as IPA as I can get, and even then, sometimes I'll have to just drink half and like put it away if it's too much hop for me.
Yeah.
But I do love dark beers too. So anything barrel aged. I love stouts, imperial stouts, porters. I like the heavy chocolate flavored beers and vanilla infused beers and whatever other crazy combinations. I know Belgian Beaver's really popping off for their peanut butter stout. You're doing like an Oreo cookie stout at your brewery?
Oh yeah, I've been selling that.
Oh, God.
So what we do is we take a porter.
Amazing.
So we take 200 gallons of porter, and then we infuse like 3 gallons of cold brew coffee, and 30 pounds of Oreo double stuffed cookies.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's good. And then in the tap room,
spoon.
yeah, no, in the tap room we put a scoop of vanilla ice cream in it, and it's like a beer float, and we give them a spoon, and they're like really happy. Yeah, so it's good. It's a good thing. We've been selling a lot of it. I've been selling kegs, and that's why I was out today selling kegs of that and cases, and so.
Well, I definitely haven't heard of anyone out here on the West Coast doing an Oreo cookie stout. So I think you're onto something. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, we're trying to blow it out there, right? Yeah, so I got it on this podcast. It goes all over the world. So here we go. You know, maybe we'll get some traction on that. But yeah, it's a good brew. But you mentioned you're in San Francisco now, right? We did a story about Anchor Brewing out there.
Yes,
and
I heard.
Yeah, we're talking about union efforts start at Anchor Brewing, and I don't know if you have any idea what's going on there, or your take on the whole thing about Anchor Brewing and the scene there.
Can you recap some of the details, and then I'll definitely give you some context.
So it says workers. I have the article up here. We did it a couple weeks ago. Mid-February, workers of the iconic Anchor Brewing Company in San Francisco have begun the process of unionizing. And, it said Anchor workers should be paid enough to live in San Francisco. And they wrote a letter, and they said that we're struggling to survive and raise our families. The work we do is exhausting, and we have to keep moving farther away and driving longer to survive. So they're talking about the cost of living in San Francisco, and they do work hard. I mean, brewing, it kicks your butt, man. I mean, these guys work hard, and I think they just want to get paid for it. So they're starting these unions. So I don't know what your experience is that with it, or do you have any knowledge on that?
Well, I don't know anyone who works for Anchor Brewing directly. I don't really have any contacts with that brewery per se, but I would love to give your listeners some context about what it's like living out here. So I think that everything that they're saying in their letter is absolutely true. However, it is the same exact plight that every single other person who lives out here in the Bay Area is going through.
Wow.
For example, I always tell people, if you want to be middle class, you need to make 6 figures. 80 G's a month, 80 G's annually, 60 G's annually is usually enough money in most American households to support 1 or maybe 2 kids and a car, okay, and live comfortably. That is pennies out here where we live. I believe that we have now surpassed New York as the most expensive city in the United States.
Really?
So everything that he's saying about having to migrate more inland, and people I've known people in this industry, the industry I work in, who drive from Stockton every day, who live in Sacramento. I meet Uber drivers who live in Sacramento, and they come and work out in the city for a couple of days just to stack enough money, and they drive around the clock.
Wow.
So everyone that I've ever worked with in my entire time living up here has had either 2 jobs or 2 or 3 roommates. So the things that they're complaining about are true, but unfortunately I feel that is the price that everyone has to pay when they live out here. Whether you're a cook, a policeman, a chef, a bartender, whether you're just a regular register person who works at Safeway, nobody can afford to live out here unless you work in tech or finance, and you can make $150,000 a year to have your $3,000 a month 1-bedroom apartment. Not to mention that everyone I know has 2 jobs. And here's the thing, either you find a place to live. If your family did not buy a house immediately before the first tech boom of the 90s, the likelihood of you being a fucking retail person at Neiman Marcus is not going to, you're not going to be able to buy a house here. And I feel, unfortunately, it's the same thing with brewing. And it's a little bit a slap in the face to a lot of the other professionals that are here. For example, I believe maybe a week after they wrote this letter to Sapporo and it became news, I think the Oakland Teachers Union went on strike. Those are people who need a living wage and who can't be driving 2 hours every day in a commute. And that's not to say that we don't need anchor steam. Of course we need anchor steam. But anchor steam, I mean, their employees are just going to have to figure it out, just like every one of us else out here has to figure it out. Like, I don't really understand what they're complaining about, because this is what literally everyone that I know is going through.
Yeah. So you're saying it's kind of the norm. How far is Sacramento from there? You say it's
Sacramento, about 2 hours, I believe.
Oh wow! So they gotta commute like 2 hours each way.
Oh, it happens all the time. I mean, everyone does it. Everybody has to do it out here. I don't know anyone who lives in Oakland or San Francisco proper is either living with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 roommates in a house full of people. They're renting a room. You can't even rent a room out here for less than $1,100. That's just renting a room. You still got to share the bathroom, the kitchen. You got to hope that these people aren't psychos. You got to hope that you get along with everyone. You got to hope that they're not these, nasty hippies or trust fund kids who are, leaving shit all over the house and having friends over all the time. It's almost impossible to have a family here. It's very difficult to live here because of the financial aspect of it, the financial demands of it, as well as the fact that there's already a housing crisis. So if they can't live in San Francisco, you don't get IT engineer, project manager money for being a brewer. I just don't see how it's relevant. And I think that the issues that they have need to be taken up with Gavin Newsom, and all the other Democrats that have torn this city apart. It's not Sapporo's responsibility. I don't feel it is.
Now, enlighten us. I'm not sure. Gavin, is he the mayor or something?
He used to be the mayor of San Francisco. Now he's the governor of California.
Oh, he's the governor. I'm sorry. I remember the term.
No, it's okay. Most people don't know. Most people
the
don't
governator.
Care.
That was the last one. Oh, and then what's his face? The last one. Who was the last governor?
I don't know. I was living in Vegas at the time. Right. I didn't quite care.
It was a Jerry something. I don't know. He's guy in this. He's very liberal. Like he raised the taxes like astronomical. Everybody's exiting California anyway. This is what I keep hearing. There's just the taxes that are just anti-business and human.
They are.
And people are just like, I'm out. I'm done. And
that's why I left. I mean, that's exactly why I left to go to Vegas and to kind of seek my fortune out there. And Vegas has a lot of great things to offer, the quality of life, the cost of living.
Yeah.
But there is definitely something missing that California doesn't have, not just greenery and trees, but also the culture here and the way that is, as much as I hate the liberalism of California, I do appreciate the friendliness, and people are very friendly here. There's a lot of creatives here, craft beers popping off. I mean, we're becoming kind of at the forefront of the IPA movement, which I believe is a bubble that is going to burst very soon.
Oh, you think so?
But California is it's a beautiful state, and once you have it in your heart, it's kind of hard to get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really in a great situation where I've got a place in Vegas, and I'm back with my old roommate, so I'm not paying too much in either spot. I can actually afford both. I can work out here. I can fly back there. I can basically do whatever I want in my life right now. So, but what the life that I'm living, trust me, not a lot of people get to live.
Wow. You're fortunate. I guess you have good roommates, and you can be flexible and go back and forth. It seems like you're following your passion, and you're doing what you want to do. Which is
I'm making money. I'm following my passion. I'm hopefully creating a brand that a lot of people can get excited about, and I really want to expand this Beer Talk Radio family, and now you're a part of it. So, we're gonna. You mentioned some ideas that you have, and we won't release those now, but I would definitely be on board for helping you, and I believe this podcast is going to take my life in whole new directions, and I'm excited.
Yeah, we're both in the same boat. I think, we do think alike. Like everything you're saying is it's refreshing, if somebody's thinking the way I'm thinking. But we both have a passion. Yours is, beer and food. Mine is beer. I like food too, which is good. I'm Italian, which is good, but I think beer, it's like anything, if you drink too much of it or you indulge too much of it, it's just not good, like if you buy, that's why I ask people to just not go, and if you're going to go out and buy like this 24 pack of like watery beer, buy a pallet of water instead, and then take the rest of the money and buy like a 4-pack of really good local craft beer. You'll enjoy it much more,
Or just take that 24 pack and cook with it is what I would do.
Cook.
That's about all I can use Bud Light for, is cooking with. I can't use it for anything else.
What would you cook? Like, what would you do? Pasta or something? I don't know. Like, there's so much.
Well,
liquid.
I would use it. I would just use it as braising liquid. So I would throw some onions, carrots, and celery, and then get a brisket in there, or a pot roast, or a pork loin, or anything that needs to be covered. Add some salt and pepper. If you have some parsley stems, you can throw that in there. You don't even need to use the leaves. You can just throw the stems in there and just braise it low and slow, 2, 3, 4 hours, however long it takes, dependent on how much your piece of meat weighs. And that's what Bud Light and Coors is good for, as far as I know.
Oh, man. See, it's making me hungry. Just your explanation is just wow. Where did you learn your chefing skill?
That is also a very interesting story, because I never went to culinary school, but I will tell you this. My background is mostly fine dining and corporate dining, so I've worked at a lot of tech companies here in the Bay Area, and I've also worked at a lot of really nice upscale restaurants. Worked for a couple of celebrity chefs, and had a plethora of other great cooking experiences. So I learned by just throwing myself in. Like I said, I was 29. But the very first corporate dining job that I had was for the former personal chef for Michael Jackson. So that was my first job at age 29. And needless to say, my standards have been extremely high ever since. And even the chef that I work for now here in San Francisco, he's like a former Michelin star chef. He had received one, not at this restaurant, but at another restaurant when he was younger. So he's got amazing ideas. This is a farm-to-table restaurant you'll find a lot of organic ingredients in a lot of the kitchens out here in the Bay Area. People are very picky about their food, so this is one of the most competitive markets to be in. And I think that we have access to some of the best ingredients that can be found anywhere because we're surrounded by vineyards and farms and heirloom organic farming like all around us. You know, we have, and plus we're by the sea, so we have great seafood. We're close to Washington. They also have great seafood. Anything that we need from anywhere else, we're kind of in the smack dab middle of it, you know, then we can get access to everything. It's a lot of fun cooking out here.
Yeah, that's what I noticed about everybody from San Francisco. They're just very happy people. I know that's probably the cost of living is, but like you just touched upon it. You're kind of in the center of everything. And you mentioned before
so
that
beautiful.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It's no matter how angry I get or stressed out I get, like when I'm on the BART train and I'm looking at the estuary and I'm looking at the boats going by and I'm looking at these beautiful hills that are in Berkeley and these lakes that are in Alameda and all these other little pockets and crazy histories in all these different neighborhoods. And not just in San Francisco, in Oakland, in Berkeley, in other parts of the county. Like there's so many different pockets of unique character. And this is something you just can't find in Vegas, but that's for sure.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, we touched upon a lot of things.
I'm happy with wrapping it up. I feel like I've said everything I need to say, but I wanted to, do you feel like it was beer inclusive enough?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I think we touched upon a lot of areas, and so in terms of a beer bubble, like you touched upon an IPA before, you think that's a fad or what?
Oh yeah, I think the bubble's going to pop because as we create more. As we start to market, and I mean all of us, as us craft beer advocates start to be the foot soldiers and the ambassadors and the marketers for converting the Bud Light drinkers, we're going to need to bring more to the table. We can't just shove an IPA in somebody's face and say, okay, if you want to come into the craft beer court, this is what you need to learn to drink and you need to learn to like it. And I think that one of the trends, I definitely think the IPA bubble is going to burst. It's going to get to the point where it's almost too many styles within an IPA to where people are just going to get sick of having to read the can. And so I think there is going to be a reversal in terms of creating more craft beers that honor old methods. I know that a couple years ago, one of the trends was the Prohibition ales and the Prohibition lagers. I think a little bit of that is going to come back because we need to offer just a basic, solid, flavorful, rich lager, American lager that tastes great, that's crushable, and that can be offered to anyone.
Right.
I think that we've kind of got that with the Belgian wheat options. But I think especially as more and more women are buying craft beer, and I do have the statistics from the Brewers Association if you want to hear them, more and more women are getting into craft beer, so there's going to be kind of a reversal, and we're going to want more simpler flavors, but we'll need to make them more interesting. So, the IPA bubble is going to burst, but the craft beer bubble is definitely not. It's only going to grow.
Yeah, I guess anything extreme has its periods, and then they kind of fade away. But like you're saying, the lagers, some solid lager. That's when you know in a brewery. There was another brewer I interviewed, and he says if you go into a brewery and the first thing you try is their lager, and if that lager is good, then they know what they're doing because it's. But I also think that it's a great transition beer. You talked about transition beers.
Yeah,
you don't want to smack somebody with a sour. Some guy went who had a brewery, and he went on to Shark Tank, and they gave them like a sour beer. I'm like, why are you giving these guys? You want money from them, and you give them this beer it tastes like garbage.
Right. It tastes like
what are you
lemon
doing?
chocolate
Like, what are
without
you
the sugar,
crazy?
right?
Like, they liked the first couple of beers, then they gave him the sour beer, and they were like, I'm not going to give you any money. You're crazy. And then he left without any money. So
I don't think sours are ever going to pick up because they're just too hard to drink, and most people, at least American people, we don't grow up on the type of diets where we're eating a lot of really sour fermented flavors. Like, for example, I think maybe someone who's grown up on a Korean diet or a German diet where you have a lot of pickled vegetables. Someone like that can tolerate sour beers, but here in America, we grow up on McDonald's and Taco Bell. We're just not ready for that.
No.
But I am really excited, and I mentioned this earlier about brut IPAs. I'm really excited about the direction that's going in. I had a great brut IPA from Drake's Brewing Company.
Okay.
I've noticed that within probably like the last 6 months or so, I'm seeing these brut IPAs everywhere. So Sierra Nevada has one, Anderson Valley has one, and it's starting to pick up. And I think that too is a great intro segue beer for people who love champagne. And I think the next evolution of that, I mean, I'm starting to see a lot of sparkling rosé ales. I'm seeing a lot of that, and I think that's going to help with the women's market, but it's also going to help tap into the wine drinker market, and we've got to start getting them to convert to our side as well. So I'm excited to see where, I guess, wine-infused or wine barrel-aged beers are going to go. I think it's going to get exciting.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. I got to give a shout out. You say the brut IPA. There's a brewery in our state in New Hampshire, 603 Brewery. They do a kick-ass brut IPA. I mean, kudos to them. I was drinking. I'm like, damn, this is good. And I really want to get into it's the new thing, I guess, the brut IPAs. It's kind of current, but they taste really good. So I think
if they're done, I think it's going to be a hard style because it's so new and it's just now picking up wind. Yeah. I think if it's done correctly, it's one of the most pleasurable drinking experiences. And I personally freaking love champagne. So for me,
really
this
good,
is the best of both worlds. And they're so astringent. If they're done correctly, they're so bubbly and so astringent that it just cuts straight through the hops, and then someone like me who hates IPA can actually drink it. But I've also tasted a couple of brut IPA fails. So I mean, I think there's room to grow, and as it catches on, people are going to get better and better at making them.
Yeah, champagne is good. I like the sweeter stuff too, like the Asti Spumante. I used to drink a lot of that. I don't drink too much of that anymore. I don't know why. I should. But, now I'm drinking beer every day, I guess. I have a brewery. But I think, the brut and the dryness is really good. And I think that's the new beer. But the sour beers were crazy. Like a couple of years ago, they were just nuts. Everybody wanted sour. And then I went to like a restaurant, and then they had like all sour beers on tap. I'm like, dude, come on, Like some of them, like brewers, if they know what they're doing, that's fine. But most of them were vinegar.
I know, it's terrible.
I'm like, what is this stuff, man? Put it on my salad. I don't want to drink this stuff.
Exactly.
But and that's why I don't make it, because I don't know what I'm doing. Like if there's if there's a brewery, Allagash does a lot of good stuff in Maine. Really good. They're local.
They have great beer.
Oh yeah, I got to have him on the podcast. I'm trying to work on the brewery. He said he was going to do it. I just got to corner him and get him on. But they know what they're doing.
They're very popular. Yeah. They're very popular in California. You see them at almost every craft beer bar everywhere.
Fantastic stuff. On tap. Yeah. I don't know if they have that Avancé out there. Man, good stuff. I don't know if they just have it at the brewery, but they gave me some. I'm like, wow. I get my barrels from them. Actually, they get barrels from Jim Beam. And then they make the Curio. They condition the Curio in them. And then they sell them. So I take them, and then I just put 200-degree water in it, kill everything, wash it out. And it's fantastic because the bourbon's been in there for 4 years. So then we condition our beer in the stouts or a strong ale we conditioned a Weizenbach on there, and usually that's an anniversary ale. We just turn it into an anniversary ale. So I made a couple of them over the years, but they're very good. They know what they're doing. I would say
that sounds delicious.
Thumbs up to them. They do good stuff. But
Awesome.
Anyway, so Jenny, this was fantastic. It was great to talk to you, and we have to do a craft brew news podcast as well. But I want to wrap this up with you now, and I appreciate what you're doing. I'd like us to connect I don't know, we'll see each other in the future somewhere, maybe a craft brewers conference, or got to talk about Vegas too. Vegas is very interesting to me. I think you were mentioning like in one of your podcasts that Vegas is kind of turning the corner in terms of craft beer, and it's becoming more popular there, right?
And I'll take you on a little. Actually the best. What people don't know is Vegas. There's Vegas proper, and then there's all the little surrounding neighborhoods. So there is some great beer coming out of North Las Vegas, and then also some great beer coming out of Henderson, Nevada, which is right next to Vegas. I'll take you on a little beer tour, and we'll drive around, or we'll take Uber around, depending on who's had what, And I'll show you around. I think you'll be impressed. There's a lot of creativity coming into the craft brewer scene, and I think that I need to get back there and start celebrating a little bit more of what's there. But I think you'll be impressed.
That's cool.
I would say that everything that I've tasted in Vegas will stand up to everything that I've tasted in California.
Is that right? Wow.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I mean, they're competing with California. They have to be good. Think about it.
Yeah. Well, they're next door, right? It's Nevada, California.
Well, yeah, next door, yeah. Basically, yeah.
Well, they got, what do you call it?
4 hours next door.
Lake Tahoe. No, Lake Tahoe. Like if you go on one side of the lake, it's Nevada, and the other side of the lake, it's the California.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're right next door.
Okay, well,
Cool.
Can I just let everyone know how to find me?
Absolutely, yes. Please share that.
Okay, so I try to keep it simple, everybody. Just visit my website, www.beertalkradio.net. All of my links to all of my social media platforms are in the website, right there at the top. You can scroll down. You can see some of my videos, which are on my YouTube channel. If you like my videos, I've just started, so I'm looking to pick up more subscribers. If you'd like to learn more cooking things and get more tours of little places that I go and beers that I'm drinking, definitely subscribe on the YouTube channel. And then, of course, all of the podcast episodes are in the website as well. That is www.beertalkradio.net.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, you're putting a lot of great content out, and it's really relevant. And you have your finger on the pulse of a lot of things, locations and beer styles, and your ideas for the future are great. And got a lot of good, solid information. So I appreciate you being on the podcast. And hang loose for a little bit. We'll do the craft brew news. But thanks very much for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, cool. Yeah, that was Jenny the Greek, and she's the host of Beer Talk Radio. She has a lot of knowledge. She's in Vegas doing a lot of work there. Now she's in San Francisco, really interesting places with a lot of good beer. The Vegas scene is blowing up in terms of craft beer, which is very, very encouraging. I got to get out there and check it out. But I say I have to get everywhere. But no, Vegas I can get out there. Yeah, I'll get out there and check it out. But she's doing some good stuff. She's a professional chef as well. So cool stuff. You got to listen to Beer Talk Radio. Really good. She does a thing about oysters, like an episode. Like I was just listening to her, like chopping things up and just talking about it. And I'm like, man, I'm just hungry. I gotta eat something because this is just making me hungry. But she's doing good stuff. So check it out. But if you like what we have, you like the guests that we're bringing you, please go on to iTunes, subscribe to the Craft Beer Storm podcast, leave us a rating, leave us a review, tell a friend, tell 10 friends, right? And just, spread the love around that we're here to educate you on craft beer. Mondays we have interviews like this. We post them on Mondays with brewers or movers and shakers and influencers in the industry like Jenny. And on Wednesdays we have beer styles, where we go through a different beer style every week. We go down the Great American Beer Festival list, and there's like 102 of them, 102 categories, and then there's subcategories. So there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot of different beers out there. And then Friday we do craft brew news, and we take care of the news of the week. So that's our podcast for today. I'm glad that you joined us, and I appreciate your support. We are growing. We got more downloads. We doubled our downloads, which is cool. We got to keep doubling them. But help me out with iTunes. Please share this with a friend. Leave us a rating. Send me some feedback. Michael at craftbeerstorm.com. That would be very helpful to me. If you have any brewers that you want me to interview, or any influencers in the industry, please send them my way. Connect us. I will get them on, because I want to talk to everybody in order to share their knowledge and get you more information. So that's cool. All right, guys, that's it for today. We'll see you on Wednesday. Take care.